Hello and welcome. Today we're talking about something I wish had been told to me when I first became interested in paganism. The fact that it's okay, even beneficial, to begin with simple practices rather than immediately trying to choose some specific tradition or a label. Many newcomers to paganism feel overwhelmed by the sheer variety of paths available. Should you explore Wicca, Druidry, Heathenry, Hellenic Reconstruction, or maybe something from your ancestry? The options can seem endless. They are, and the amount of information to learn is absolutely daunting. But here's some good news: you don't have to decide right away. In fact, jumping into a specific tradition before you've had a chance to explore what resonates with you personally might actually hinder your spiritual journey. In this video, I'll share 5 universal pagan practices that span across most traditions. These are accessible ways to begin your practice without needing to commit to any particular path. Think of this as learning to eat before deciding on a favorite dish. Section 1: Connecting with Nature. The foundation for virtually all pagan paths is a deep reverence for and a connection with the natural world. Here are some simple practices to strengthen this connection. Practice number 1: mindful nature walks. Go out and find a natural setting. It doesn't have to be a remote wilderness. A local park, your garden, or even a tree lined street will really do. As you walk, deliberately slow your pace. Notice the details you'd normally miss: the patterns in the tree bark, the movement of clouds, the songs of birds, the scent of soil or the plants and flowers around you, the feeling of wind or even sun on your skin. Try to engage with all 5 senses. This isn't just a walk, it's a moving meditation. You're not just observing nature as something separate from yourself, you're experiencing your place within it. For deeper practice, visit the same spot regularly, daily, weekly, or even monthly, and observe how it changes with the seasons. Keep a journal of what you notice. Leads us into practice 2: creating a nature shrine. A shrine differs slightly from an altar in the way that it's primarily a space for reverence and recollection and connection rather than some active ritual work. Creating a simple nature shrine is really easy. Just choose a special place. It could be indoors or outdoors that feels meaningful. It could be a windowsill in your home, on an antique cabinet, or it could be, in my case, on a stump outside. Collect items from nature that speak to you: stones, feathers, shells, pine cones, acorns, flowers, whatever it may be, and arrange them in that shrine with intention, perhaps honoring specific aspects of nature that call to you, the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, etc. Whatever really connects to you, what calls to you. Consider including like representations of local flora and fauna from your region or from your ancestral path. So, me personally, my ancestral path is Northern Europe, Scandinavia, and sort of in that area, and a little bit of Native American as well. But where I'm located here in North Florida, there are a lot of native plants, flowers, and such around me. That is what I collect for my natural shrine because I'm connecting to the nature around me personally. And I recommend that you even visit your shrine regularly for quiet contemplation or to just leave another offering like water, honey, seeds, something for the wildlife. So I'll throw some seeds or some vegetables on there for wildlife to have something to eat. Your nature shrine becomes a physical reminder of your relationship with the natural world and a place to deepen that connection through regular attention and care. So that moves us into practice number 3: observing the natural cycles. Natural cycles surround us on many scales. Daily, lunar, seasonal, yearly. Observing these cycles helps us to reconnect with the natural rhythms our ancestors lived by. We have daily cycles like dawn or sunrise, and it's a time for new beginnings or setting some new intentions. Maybe at noon, it could be the time of peak energy and activity. When sunset or dusk happens, it's time for, slow down, you know, a completion to the day and a little bit of like reflection on that. Whereas night would be a time for rest, for dreams, and for your subconscious. You also have, say, lunar cycles, like a new moon representing the beginnings, the setting those intentions and introspection, or waxing moon, growth, building on, increasing more energy. A full moon, that's the culmination, the celebration, the maximum peak of energy. Or a waning moon, that's, releasing that energy, letting it go, decreasing. These natural cycles are really important to understand um, the way things move through nature and how things are different. So try keeping a little journal, noting how these cycles affect your energy, your mood, your focus. Over time, you may even notice patterns that can help you align your activities with these natural rhythms and be able to understand and apply these rhythms to your daily life. Practice 4 would be honoring the seasons. So you say like changing seasons provides natural points to pause and reflect, just like I talked about those other cycles before. The four seasons kind of represent those same types of cycles. Take the four seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. Spring representing renewal, birth, new plantings, new projects. Or a summer is that growth, that abundance, that peak energy phase, like, say high noon. And autumn would be your harvest time to, think about gratitude, what happened through the year, preparation for the winter. And then we come into winter and it's all about rest and introspection and planning for the next year. You can take those four seasons and say create small personal rituals for each transition. So at, say, like the spring or autumn equinoxes, the summer or winter solstices, and when those transitions happen, a lot of pagan celebrations happen during these times, just like the Wiccan Wheel of the Year or Yule in Germanic and Nordic traditions. These different seasonal changes happen regularly among different pagan paths. So create that small personal ritual for the transitions. Some options, you think you can be like decorating your space with seasonal items, seasonal foods. Personally, like to eat seasonally as much as possible. Think about those seasonal cycles, appreciate those cycles, and put some type of energy or some dedication within those cycles. Reflect on the different qualities of the season, um, and set intentions to how you use your energy during those seasons. For example, like the beginning of spring, you might put your energy into planting seeds, literal or metaphorical seeds, for what you hope to grow in the coming season. In autumn, you reflect on what you've harvested from the year or what you're harvesting currently, and get ready to plan and let go for the next year. So that was practice number 4, honoring the seasons. We'll step into practice 5, and this kind of gets into more like into your personal practice, and we're going to be establishing daily spiritual moments. Now, consistency matters more than complexity. A simple daily practice helps build your personal connection to the sacred more effectively than occasional elaborate rituals. Morning or evening meditations, just a few minutes here and there, lighting a candle with some intention, offering water, food, or flowers to your shrine, to nature, um, to a plant in your home. You can make that a ritual. You can be reading inspirational pagan texts or poetry like the Havamal, or journaling about your spiritual experiences and questions. Just reflecting on those things can become a ritual of itself. But the key to this is to making it a ritual is the consistency. Choose something sustainable that you can do even on a busy day. So that 5 minute meditation first thing in the morning, or if it's a 5 minute meditation at night, whatever works for you that allows you to keep it consistent is really important. So let's talk about using these practices to explore other traditions. Ask yourself these few questions. Are you drawn to specific deities or even cultures? Which ones? Me, I was my ancestry kind of goes back to like Celtic and Germanic peoples and Nordic peoples, and even some Native Americans. So I look into all these cultures, and really my personal pagan path takes a little from all of them, but most of it comes from the Germanic and Nordic ancestry. And find out what connections you have to your ancestry or to your local area or whatever that may be. Find out what cultures or deities you may be drawn to, and really just ask yourself why that is. Um, do you feel more connected to certain elements or different aspects of nature? What are those, and how do you feel about those? Which seasonal celebrations feel the most meaningful to you? I mean, personally, winter solstice is like a really powerful, really emotional time for me, but it can be different for everyone else. Are you drawn to a specific structured ritual or a spontaneous practice? So, what do you like, the rigorous structure and the rules set aside, or do you prefer to be a little bit more spontaneous and just kind of, as they say, go with the flow? Or do you prefer solitary practice, or do you want to practice your paganism within a community and with a large group of people? These questions matter, and what you ask yourself is really important on that. Um, I'm going to talk about a couple of common paths, some of the most popular pagan paths. Now, granted, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different belief systems out there. I'm only going to talk about the top few and kind of hit on a few others. Um, but if these do not appeal to you, it is okay. There are many other paths available, including eclecticism, and that's really just mindfully pulling traditions from multiple paths and combining them into your own pagan practice, as I have. But it's important to be culturally, appreciative of the cultures you're pulling these paths from, and do not try to appropriate or misrepresent cultures' paths. The first path we're going to talk about is Wicca. Some of the core beliefs, and I'm just going to have this kind of structure for these other paths here. We're going to talk about core beliefs, the cultural origins, and some notable practices within that path. Core beliefs are worshiping of a god and a goddess figure, working with natural elements, and following the wheel of the year. So they have combined seasonal celebrations from a few different paths and kind of structured them into the wheel of the year, where everything is specifically done on a date. The origins of Wicca was developed in the mid 20th century, drawing from, again, various European traditions, Celtic, Nordic. I believe there is some Roman and some Greek influence in there as well. Some of the most notable practices within Wicca are casting circles, celebrating the Esbats and Sabbats, which are your seasonal or moon rituals. Wicca is what you would consider more of a structured eclecticism. So they did pull in practices from multiple paths, but they created a structure around that. Wicca is typically where you'll see a lot of spell work. Wicca is a pagan path that often includes witchcraft. I'm not saying that witchcraft is a requirement of Wicca, but the two go hand in hand, and they're often really closely interlinked. The second path we're going to talk about is Druidry or Celtic paganism. There's a lot of connection with those two. You have your Celtic paganism, which is your overall cultural pagan path, and then Druidry is a smaller sect of, for lack of a better term, like a priesthood within that. So that's why I've kind of put them two together. Druidry doesn't necessarily connect with the Celtic gods and goddesses and a lot of the mythology. It's a little bit more closely related to the nature practices, But again, it's like two sides of the same coin. They really are interlinked in a lot of ways. Some of the core beliefs are reverence for nature, reverence for the ancestors, and then the Celtic deities may or may not be connected depending on the person's personal pagan path. There's a heavy emphasis on wisdom and creativity within Druidry and Celtic paganism. Some of the cultural origins are obviously inspired by ancient Celtic, the priesthood. Uh, that would be in like Great Britain and those kind of surrounding areas. It was mostly wiped out, has been revived in modern times. Some of the most notable practices are meditation, working with the elements, honoring sacred sites like groves, springs, etc. The next pagan path is my primary path is often called heathenry or Norse paganism. There are several other terms to this, some good, some bad. But just note that it is honoring the Norse and Germanic gods and goddesses, and a heavy emphasis on ancestor veneration as well. There's a heavy emphasis on community values and personal honor and living a good life. The cultural origins, again, are Northern Europe, Scandinavian, typically. Some of the notable practices are bloats, or which are blood offerings to the gods. These are usually done on a horger type altar, or you have also the sumbles, which is kind of a ceremonial of ritual toasting. The next path we're going to mention is the Hellenic path. This is another reconstructed path. Specific core beliefs, worshiping of Greek deities, emphasis on virtue and ethics, and kind of a household worship. With the Hellenic path, a lot of the shrines were in the home. So there's a lot of home worship of their own particular house may venerate ancestors or a very specific deity and may or may not worship other deities. It's really like a personal practice on that. Cultural origins is obviously ancient Greece. Notable practices are libations, that's drink offerings, household shrines, as I mentioned, and some big festival celebrations are really common with Hellenic paganism. Now, I want to touch on one of the African um, pagan paths, and that's Yoruba or Ifa. I'm not really strong with the pronunciations on that, but these are some of the more, this is one of the more known pagan paths from Africa. Uh, core beliefs, connection with the Orishas or divine forces, and the importance of destiny and divination. The cultural origins were West Africa, primarily Nigeria, Benin, Togo, with diaspora traditions, obviously in the Americas with the transatlantic slave trade. A lot of those people were brought to the Americas, North, Central, and South America. So a lot of those beliefs were kind of intertwined with either some Native American beliefs or quite commonly mixed in with Christian traditions and beliefs, because a lot of these people were forced into Christianity, so they kind of mirrored a lot of their deities onto Christian saints, and a lot of their practices were mixed in with Christian practices in order to avoid persecution and to, in a way, keep their personal beliefs and practices alive in the way that they could. Some of the more notable practices within these paths is divination with opale or obi. Music and dance were really big in these. Ancestral reverence. Um, on the topic of music and dance, I'm not sure if it was this particular African path or a different one that I looked into this, but I was really like connected with a particular deity that was he was a god of both dance and the weather, so like thunderstorms. And to me, the connection between dancing and thunderstorms was really interesting with that particular belief system. Puts that into my mind like a thunderstorm is a wild and chaotic dance, and it was just, again, that mythology was really interesting to me. I'll see if I can figure it out, and I may even put a video together just kind of talking about different African deities, because diving into that branch of paganism has been eye opening, seeing the similarities and the differences with a lot of European or Native American traditions. Next, we have Shinto, which is is an indigenous Japanese spirituality path. Some of the core beliefs would be a reverence for the kami, or the spirits and divine beings, ritual purity, harmony with nature. There was a lot of connection with ancestor veneration and worship. Some of the most notable practices are shrine visits. So, a lot of Shinto shrines were public shrines that a lot of people would come to, and they would have like household shrines, community shrines, and then larger shrines in villages and cities, etc. There's ritual purification involved, and of course, seasonal festivals, which, as I mentioned earlier, are kind of a connection with multiple pagan paths. The last group of paths we're going to talk about is Indigenous American paganism. Um, the cultural origins of this, of course, is Native American First Nations peoples across all North America. And a lot of this is also true with a lot of South American paths as well. So we're going to kind of like hit all that. Um, but the most important thing to know that these beliefs varied widely by different tribes and nations. Most tribes, most nations had their own belief systems. They had their own customs and practices that weren't shared a lot. So a lot of your Native American paths are going to be closed paths. So we're not going to get into very many of those, because those are shared from people to people, not so much widely amongst everyone. But most, just for the understanding, most of these beliefs included an emphasis on living in harmony with nature, honoring your ancestors, and having a responsibility to your community. Some of the most notable practices, again, these varied widely, but generally included different ceremonies, spiritual medicines, and storytelling traditions. So a lot of their stories and their traditions and their mythology would be passed down verbally, from storyteller to storyteller. That wraps up the paths I'm going to talk about today, but I do want to make one important note, as I mentioned a little bit on it earlier. While some traditions, like Wicca, are generally open to newcomers of any background, other paths, like the Indigenous American traditions and even some African traditions, are very culturally specific and may not be open to those without the cultural ties or a formal invitation. Always approach these paths with respect and be mindful of potential cultural appropriation issues. Remember, when in doubt, ask someone. Ask somebody who practices that path and just get their input on how that works out. An ongoing project at the Pagan Temple is our resources page. I'm constantly adding more and more resources, trying to build up our resources page. If you have a content creator or um, some documents or a book that you recommend, definitely send it my way and see if we can't get it added to the resources page. There's going to be a lot more added in the near future, or by the time you see this video, it may already be up. Just want to say thank you for following the Pagan Temple. Stay tuned for more videos, more educational content, and I look forward to seeing you. Like they say, like, share, subscribe. It really helps push this channel to more people, and maybe that one person you share it to, this could be what they need. Thank you again. See you on the other side.